Good morning, everyone. Good morning to everyone who's joining us in the sanctuary, and good morning to those of you who are coming in on YouTube. We're glad you're here wherever you're coming from. First of all, we have a big thank you to Wendy and Alan Bond for their wonderful Divine Dining event this last weekend. It was a King Harbor cruise with dockside barbecue, and everyone that went had a great time. So thank you so much to them for providing us with this great opportunity. We also have another Divine Dining event that we are still promoting. It's something you can check out at the activity table. It is called Vino, Vittles, and Good Vibrations, and it's on September the 9th at the Betty Halley Clubhouse with Mark and Monica Ruth and friends. Get the details and make your bid at the activities table. This is an activity that's been in various forms, has been at a lot of our Divine Dining events. Mark and Monica are very fond of doing the appetizers and the wine together, the pairing kind of thing. So that if you are at all interested in that, that's September the 9th, and there's still time to do that. Now, not tomorrow, but the next Thursday, September the 7th, we are going to have our spiritual discussion group at 2, followed by the Labyrinth Walk at 3:45. And so that's one of our monthly events that's really a great opportunity to dive into Science of Mind with your community, with discussions, and then to do that walk next door as part of the Labyrinth. It's a great opportunity. So that's next Thursday afternoon. Now, are you ready to release some of your treasures? I know I am. I am completing my stacks, but we're already accepting those treasures. You may have noticed that we have right out there in the parking lot, we have the big crate that we will put everything in, and so you can start bringing them in. The actual sale, our treasure sale, begins on September the 15th. Yes, it's Friday. And we are very, very much looking for volunteers. For something like this, a big event like this, I don't think we can have too many volunteers. And I mean that sincerely. I think whenever I was speaking last week, I mentioned having gone to a yard sale at another church's just about a month and a half ago. And the volunteers were amazing. And it was so incredibly well organized, and everybody was so helpful with their questions. I had to buy something because they were all so nice. And it was really, really lovely. We can have that event too. We can do all of those nice things. So if you're just even slightly interested, you can volunteer for a short time to help sort things out, put things on hangers, get things set up. You can volunteer for the day of the event. There is just so much to do, and you're welcome to do that and be a part of really a great big fundraiser for our center. A big thank you goes to our garden club. You may have noticed if you came in on the parking lot side, the beautiful pots that have been tended and loved by our members of our garden club. They're still looking for new members of the garden club. If you check out there on the activity table, you will see a place to sign up or get more information about how to do that. So also check out the activity table for other events that we're having that are ongoing, such as our book reading. The book reading on Tuesday morning and the book reading on Wednesday morning. There's information out there on that table. This coming Sunday, our speaker is Reverend Valerie Reeves. And don't forget, before the 11 o'clock service, we have our Science of Mind Sunday class that's over in Richelieu Hall from 10:15 to 10:45. Everyone is welcome for that. Now, this is an important reminder. The office will be closed on Labor Day on Monday, September the, is it 4th? Yes, 4th for Labor Day. And finally, a big thank you to everyone for those of you who volunteer, and many of you in this room do from time to time. We appreciate everything you do. It enables us to present this center in the best way possible. So thank you very much. And so I take this hat off and I put the announcements down. And as I often say, I step into the spotlight of the speaker for today and simply open with the idea that we begin in prayer. I breathe in this conscious breath that allows me to feel that spirit flowing through my system, my lungs, my circulatory system, and it allows me to be conscious of the life-giving breath that I bring in. And I exhale, and I also know that I can exhale on the relaxation part of my breath, and I let go of all of those things I don't need. And I do that again, cleanly, and with such a relaxed way of being. There is a power at the center of my being that is within me, without me, is everywhere present, is in everything that I see and know, and in all around me in the spaces in between. This is the beloved presence. This is infinite intelligence. It is the mind of God. And as I open to that idea that there is this one power, I know that I am this unique expression of the one. And I know that everyone on this planet is, and everything is a unique expression of the one. And so I spend my days and my time recognizing that unity in a conscious way with all of life. And I take this moment and the moments to come as an opportunity to renew my own intention to be one with all, to understand greater, to love and be loved, and to know prosperity and success in so many ways. I'm simply grateful to be in this place, to have this opportunity in this wonderful center, to know that there is only one. It's in me, without me, and through me. And I allow it to be in gratitude and say, and so it is. I titled this talk, which you may not even know, as Life as Potpourri. And it's a title and a word, potpourri, that I came to because of some events that have unfolded in my life over the last couple of weeks. Now, potpourri, you know, is a bowl very often, or a jar filled with flowers, filled with spices, filled with different kinds of nature things that are usually attractive, and they have some aroma. But a potpourri can also be synonymous with medley. So you might have a potpourri of ideas. You might have a potpourri of all music, for example, like a medley of music. So with that in mind, I was thinking about what has unfolded, and I thought of it as potpourri. We started out on an adventure about a few weeks ago where we were flying eventually to Alabama to visit relatives, some of whom we haven't seen in over 4 years, and others that I haven't, my part of it, that I hadn't seen in more than 20 years, in the case of some of them, more like 50 years. I had this adventure in my head. So the trip to Atlanta, where we flew to, was uneventful. We landed, we got our stuff together, we go to the car rental facility at the Atlanta airport, and I step up with my reservation to pick up our car. And so the polite reception person said, well, we don't have any cars right now. There are no cars, and it will be 3 to 6 hours before we can give us a car. We can give you a car. Well, I kind of sputtered a little bit. You're saying you have no cars? And she repeated herself. I'm sure she had been repeating herself all day. I had a great deal of empathy for her because I'm looking around realizing nobody has a car. And so over the next few hours, we got more intelligence about that, and we called people and we did things and discovered more and more things, that there were no cars, and people had gone upstairs to different agencies. It didn't matter. There were no cars. And so you kind of came to that point, and it's, And so at that point, I had done everything that I could do at that point. So I sat down, really not for the first time, I was sitting on a window ledge, actually, not even in a chair, and snacking and reading and doing whatever. And I realized that in prayer, we sometimes have to know what we know. Ernest Holmes I've been familiar with a book that the book is titled Help for Today. Ernest Holmes wrote a number of books between when he published the Science of Mind textbook and later in life. And they're very basic books, and they offer different ways of looking at it. In Help for Today, there is a chapter on effective prayer. And in that book, he spends a lot of time talking about all the different ways that prayer is effective. This is not necessarily the lessons we may have learned exactly in the Science of Mind textbook, but they're not different. They're just coming at it from a different point of view, a different sensibility about the basics. And he essentially says there's really no wrong way to pray. And he gives a lot of examples of prayers that have been effective, from the pilgrimage to Lourdes and all of the prayers that have been given and whose success has been documented by the medical establishment, people who were cured. He doesn't doubt that. And he says that all faiths have prayer, whether they're our tradition or someone else's tradition, and they all have effective prayer. He's not discounting any of this. And he tells stories about different people who have prayed in a certain way, and he uses that kind of as a springboard for ways to pray. He had read something in a magazine article or in some other place about a man who had grown up in a tradition, a Christian tradition, and had married, had children, and he was at his wife's bedside after a rather negative diagnosis had been given. And he got down on his knees and he prayed. And the wife, who was lying in the bed, heard his prayer and told it years later to her son. And when she recounted the prayer, Ernest Holmes said that what the man said, that someone just listening would think that he was arguing with God, that he was just having all of this stuff. And Ernest Holmes, by the time he's telling this story, knows that the prayer was effective, that the wife lived and continued on. So he's not discounting how the man prayed. He goes on to talk about the most important aspect of prayer is to remember, and he says this in all caps, it is done unto us as we believe. That belief factor, the belief factor in the prayer itself, that the prayer itself you already know is true, is the most important. And it doesn't matter all the different ways you get there. That's what he's saying. There's no wrong way to pray. And so he goes on and talks about and he does many of the steps in prayer that we're familiar with, and then he talks about, but there are 3 attitudes of prayer, mental attitudes that we bring to prayer. Recognition, which is something that we've heard before, and then he does the middle attitude he calls reception, and the third one is release. But reception was new to me when I was reading this book. And the reception has to do with that belief part of it. That when you get to the point that you say, I know, that direct statement that you believe that you are receptive to that absolute truth, and that is what you're saying. And then release. Well, in that Atlanta airport, by the time that I had heard that there were no cars, and I had also heard that we actually might not get a car, I had made phone calls, I had texted people. I was really working very hard to try and see what I could do to make this happen. And the man that I talked to, who was he was just someone that was in knowledge. He said, there are actually no cars at that airport. You may have to spend the night. Well, I think when I heard that, I realized, no, that's not going to happen. And I realized right then that there is a car for us this evening. And by that point, with all that is, I'd done all I could do. So I let that go. I know that there's a car for us this evening. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't go through this process to get there, but the life experience gave me that process. And I got to that point and said, there is a car for us this evening. Now, there had been some people were getting some cars and our names had not been called. And I went up to the counter just to inquire, because believe me, being polite and considerate of these workers that are having to deal with hordes like our cohort here, I was very, very aware of. So when I went up, I said, I just wanted to ask if there's a list. Where are we on the list? And I said my name. And he looked at me and he said, how long have you been here? And I said, 4 hours. So he threw out this folder with the contract in it and said, here, go down that hall and turn to the left. Well, I nearly cried. I said, you mean we have a car? He goes, shh. Okay. So I pick up my stuff and I go back and with my jaw dropped saying, Bob, we have a car, we have a car. Not very loudly, but we have a car. So we got all of our little grip together and we went down and we went all the way down and there was one car. One car. It was red and it was right there. And they didn't check us out. They didn't do anything. Keys are in the car. It's the most extraordinary experience. So that was the beginning of our Alabama trip. And it was just fraught with a number of different things that happened. But by the time we had gotten to that point, I felt that we had already won to some degree. Now, as it turns out, it may be the worst rental car we've ever had. It was incredibly noisy. We could not hear each other very well. It was pouring rain, I didn't mention that, lightning, thunder, and it was beginning to get dark, and we've got a 3-hour drive. So we've done this 3-hour drive. We know to do it, but we haven't done it in 4 years. And we did not reckon with how much things changed in 4 years. We didn't recognize where we were when we got to where we were going. And so we got lost. I don't know what way to put it. And so we had to figure all this out. So by the time we eventually get to my sister-in-law's house, which is where we were headed, and she lives in the woods in Montgomery County, we felt like, what? We didn't even know what to feel. It was such an event. And the thing about it is, over the next few days, I'm going to leave again in that noisy car, and I'm going to go down to South Alabama and visit my elderly relatives, and I may be seeing them for the last time when they know me, and that's why I went. So that while they still knew me, maybe, that we could visit, because I haven't seen them in maybe 20 years. And so I did that. It was very emotional, and it was surprising in some ways. And so I've worked my way out, and I'm all going on a highway where I expected to stop for the night, find a motel and stop for the night. Only I managed to get on a highway that goes through a national forest. They don't put motels there. And so I ended up going all the way to Mobile, which was not my plan, but I eventually got there and did all of the things that I had planned to do in that area. But I was in a motel, and I realized this place where this motel is had nothing the last time I was there. It was just woods, just a highway. And I wouldn't have recognized it. So the next day, I left in plenty of time to get to where I was going. And I went by my old house, which actually looked exactly the same, which surprised me. Nothing else looked the same, but the house looked the same. And I headed off across what I used to call the Causeway, and now it is called Battleship Parkway. And Causeway meaning it was the only land bridge from Mobile to the county across Mobile Bay, Spanish Fort. And so I'm on that road. I know that road. The GPS is telling me stuff, and the GPS was wrong. Do you know that GPSs get confused around water? They really do. And so after I went over a bridge twice and it told me, you've arrived at your destination, and there's water, I'm thinking, okay, I need to put the GPS down and just find a way. I'm looking for inspiration. Pull in, somebody gives me directions, and so I end up where I'm going. And when I get there, there's like, I don't know, 30, 35 people that I went to high school with. None of us, nobody looked like anybody I knew. Well, one person did. Actually, one person did. And so people will come up to you and say, do you know who I am? And I have to say, no. It was a really wonderful experience in a head-jerking kind of way. I had all the fried food that I've not had in forever. It was a wonderful meal. I enjoyed it tremendously. And after 2.5 hours or so, it was time to go. And I'm looking for my receipt, and this man that I used to know, sort of, said, I've got your lunch. He said, you could fly all the way here from California. I could buy you lunch. So in spite of the loud this and the that and the things along the way, there were grace notes everywhere. I was so grateful, and when we were going out, I was going to thank him again. He had already gone. Oh, he always does that. He just leaves. So it was a wonderful trip back to my sister-in-law's house. Beautiful, beautiful greenery and country roads, and that too. I just kept going on about how grateful I was to be in this beautiful place. The adventures were not yet done because we were going to get back, and then we were going to San Francisco, and in between I had to have a root canal. And so I had a root canal. Then we went to San Francisco, and then we came back, and I had to get him yesterday to fix something that wasn't quite right about the root canal. I'm just saying, potpourri, lots of different things that are happening. Have I processed all of it? No. But I prayed throughout, knowing that not only does good come from everything, not only are there grace notes throughout all experiences, but that I am now in a higher way of being when I know the truth for someone else. And that is one of my inspirations in life. There are people in my prayer group that I support that are having challenges that they perceive as challenges. And I feel like I am now able to know the truth for them in a deeper way. And that is a gift as well. This teaching is a gift in many ways, and it's so simple. It is done unto us as we believe. And we spend our time understanding how we can think our way into understanding what we believe, and how we can better recognize that and the truth that we want to express. And I feel like that whole journey that I could not possibly have imagined in my wildest imagination, that it would be as it was, and yet the whole thing is a gift. And so what I am only sharing is that whatever comes our way, whatever potpourri times that you have, that we take that as it comes and recognize, what is this for me? What is mine to do in this? And what are the things where I take a step back and say, no, not today. And know with conviction that I can speak my word and have that open up in exactly the way that I know. Whatever this teaching is, it can teach us that we have that power within us. And don't doubt it, but know it. As the man who prayed for his wife knew that she would be whole. And she was. And so with that gift, I simply want to know for all of us that whatever it is that comes our way, now, next week, next year, that it is for our good, for our benefit, for our knowing, even if it doesn't look like it, even if it looks messy. There is a gift. And the more I know that, I find it. I look for it, and I find it. And so that is the truth, not from Ruth, but from me. And so it is. Thank you. And so this is a time in our service where we have an opportunity to give from the bounty that we have. And I love the idea of giving as part of receiving, because I know that all that I have given comes back to me so much. It is something I believe strongly in. So I am happy to join you as we do our affirmation. Divine love consecrates my gift. It goes forth to heal, to bless, and to prosper all those who give and all those who receive. I rejoice in the sharing of my good, and I release my gift with love, and so it is. So does anyone have a question or a comment? Have you had a cow plop in your life that you're finding the good in? Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, I'd love it if you use that microphone. Thank you.
We're actually been unemployed for the last 3 months because of the writer's strike and the actor's strike, and we've found a lot of good in it in terms of we found this lovely center, and we have time during the day to do this sort of thing. So we're still finding the good in it, and we know once it's over, we'll look back and we're like, oh, that led us to A, B, and C, and D, and we're so grateful for it. But it is tough while you're in it.
Well, it's interesting. I had a conversation with a man last night who's essentially knowing, moving into the space of understanding his own unfoldment in the area of unemployment and finding his way with jobs. And he's an independent contractor, but finding the jobs. It's the same situation in a way, that doubt. And see that when we say in this teaching that that middle, when he said the mental attitude that you bring, recognition of the power and the presence, but that second one, that reception that he talks about, it's to get to that place that you know, even if your conditions argue against it, that you know that there is a place for you, there is a spot for you, there is something for you that answers what you know to be true. And that belief is where you're moving yourself into. And it takes whatever it takes to get there. And the person who prays for you can do that with you. But the belief has to happen within each of us. And that is, what does it take to do that? And it's different with different people. The man I was speaking to last night had an experience, and he prayed himself, he said. He was telling me that the way he put it was, I prayed hard. And which I reminded him that praying shouldn't be hard. It should be a flowing thing. But that was his understanding. He prayed hard. And what he said to me was amazing. He said, I got in that space where I could feel God inside me. I felt that presence was there. And I said that this is, he said what I want. I want financial security. I want to be able to not look over my shoulder just because I have one job. Not just that I pay my bills, but that I feel secure. And he went on some. And so he said to me, when I got through with that prayer, the phone rang. And he had a job. Somebody was calling to ask for his services. And the person, he went to see them, and when they gave him the job, they said, can we pray together? And they held hands. And they prayed. He said he felt so solid, so complete in that way. And he's got the phone rang again. And he's going to see someone on Saturday. So he created some energy or other, because that phone hadn't been ringing. But he did it by simply knowing and spending enough time in that first mental attitude that I mentioned that Ernest Holmes says, that recognition, knowing that power, that presence is right here with me, around me, through me. And when he got there, he knew that he was there. He said, I could feel it inside. I could feel it all around me. And that's when he said what he wanted. And that's really what we teach. And that's how he did it. And that is, everyone that's in this room that's had prayers answered could tell similar stories. And that is how it's done. Does that help answer your question about how?
Yes, that was beautiful. Thank you.
Well, I was really touched by what you were saying about, I know I'd read for years about what Ernest Holmes says about it doesn't matter how you pray, there's no wrong way to pray. And that's kind of like words in a way, but when you put that together with the belief, that was really powerful, thinking, it doesn't matter if you just say, God, I want this, or please do this, or whatever you say, but knowing that that's happening is the big thing. And I was also thinking about the role of a practitioner and the client, or whatever you want to call that person, having to do with belief, because a person that I prayed for a few years ago for an apartment, I asked him what he wanted, and this was to be a place in Leimert Park, kind of on the edge of downtown LA. And he wanted a place that was light and bright with hardwood floors and French doors and just a feeling of lightness and brightness. And within the week, he had that. And so he's always reminding me, remember when we did that, And I said, well, yes, it's true. I knew that. But the thing was that he knew it.
Yes.
He accepted that. And so when we are in the receiving position of a practitioner praying for us, it's important to get into the total belief of it. And I remember Reverend Juanita Dunn, when she was my practitioner 2 teacher, she said to us, I tell people, when you don't have enough belief, use mine, And,
oh, nice.
I always love that
Nice.
saying, But thank you for this about the belief is what we want to work on for ourselves and for other people. And also, I love the fact that when you were praying and wanting a car and knowing you'll have a car and all of that you went up and said something, because that's the other component. We can pray and pray and pray, but God is going, well, are you going to do something?
Right.
So that was beautiful. And
No, it was.
I love the story.
The exhilaration in that moment is hard to describe.
I'm sure.
Thank you, Ann.
Anne always inspires me. Friends forever. I would like some assistance. We've been talking about the son, my son, and the job situation. And God's turned his back on him, he says, etc. And I say, honey, there's the perfect place for you with your gifts. We just don't see it yet. And I really like that one because I know it's there because the apartment was there, type of thing. But what is the sadness and anger present is just most of the time I think it was you who did the prodigal son a few months back.
Yeah.
And this is, I'm answering my own question. Are you ready? Anyway, when you shared the prodigal son, I was thinking of my son. And the prodigal son, which I feel my son is also,
Yes.
was out there. And what happened? He came to his senses. And the father was there with the banquet. And I thought, and where was mom? They never talk about that in the parable. But come to his senses. So I'm reminding myself, because he's out now in Las Vegas with many possibilities. Why go,
Yeah.
Mom? Nothing ever happens, blah, 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 type of thing. And I'm reminding myself, he needs to come to his senses. And I'm there.
He came to himself, in the proverb.
Yes.
He came to himself, which is coming home to
yes.
that
as he
spirit.
came to himself, yes.
He came to
That's why
himself.
I answered my own question.
Right.
But thank you for that. And I just love that so much. It reminded me again, I got him into the world, and I love Khalil Gibran, who says, you got him here, it's up to them. It's a lovely poem.
No, I love that parable, and
So thank you. I answered my own question.
That
Thank
and
you.
the Good Samaritan, those are powerful proverbs. Anyone else have a comment or question? And so what I'm knowing for you all is that there is a knowing. There is always room, and there's always a place for everyone. The creative work, the way we express ourselves in this life that's unique to each of us, there's always a place. And that is what is coming into clarity. And the one thing that I know is that power, the presence within me, guides me to the right spot. I do not step into and get in the way of the flow of good with my fear, with my worry, with my concern. I allow myself to open, to be willing to step out there and ask, to be in the places, to wait for the inspiration to move through me and act on that inspiration in just the right way. Spirit, the infinite mind, knows far more than I and guides me if I keep opening to that idea. I don't have to know the how. I simply know that it is so. I'm in deep gratitude for all I have, all of the things I have, and I take time every day to count my blessings, to name them throughout the day, because everything that I am grateful for comes back to me, pressed down and overflowing. I get more of that. It's important that I am grateful, and I am open to even more. There's an infinite storehouse of all good. I take nothing from anyone else. There is enough for all. So I'm saying yes to that job. I'm saying yes to gainful employment. I am saying yes to creative work, knowing that it's coming to me in ways that I will be amazed. And so I smile into that thought and know it is so, as I say, and so it is. Anyone else have anything? So I guess we're going to all head out to the activity table and sign up or something. See you soon.